Welcome to the Bioptimizers Awesome Health Podcast. And now here's your host, Wade T. Lightheart.
What if you could double your energy naturally without caffeine or stimulants in just 3 short months? It's not only possible, you can transform every aspect of your health if you follow the 12-week blueprint we've created for you in the Awesome Health System. The Awesome Health System is a free course where you receive a daily video lesson spanning the most cutting-edge secrets for air, water, exercise, sunshine, optimizers, mindset, and education. It's something most companies would charge hundreds of dollars for, yet you get it for free when you go to bioptimizers.com. To access your course, register to download the PDF report called 3 Phases of Bioptimization, which gets you access to the report and daily access to the first lesson in the 12-week, 84-day Awesome Health course.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. It's Wade T. Lightheart from Bioptimizers with another edition of the Awesome Health Podcast. And today we're going to talk about an interesting topic that I think a lot of people struggle in order to achieve, and it's balance. Like, what does balance really mean? As well as what kind of game-changing routines you could establish in your life to balance health, career, relationships, and life. So we're going to talk about why clinical effectiveness is key, the truth about adaptogen industry, and why you should always double check for clinical effectiveness before investing in supplements and health products. And today's guest is none other than Steven Izen, who is the founder and CEO of Lokai and Elements of Balance. I got one of these little bracelets. We're going to talk about that in a minute. Now, Steven currently serves on the national board of Make-A-Wish Foundation, was named to the Forbes 30 Under 30 list for retail and e-commerce in 2017, and was the Ernst & Young Entrepreneur of the Year Awards finalist in 2016. Lokai itself is the iconic bracelet band that motivates consumers to stay humble at their highs and hopeful at their lows in life. Steven's latest venture, Elements of Balance, is a plant-based drink and supplement brand with clinically effective levels of adaptogenic herbs that support a sense of balance in your daily routine. Steven, welcome to the podcast.
Wade, thank you so much for having me. I wish I could just bring you to every meeting with me and just hit the play button and intro me like that.
Well, thank you very much. I'm very excited because I want to get into first the other things, but these kind of accolades on the 30 Under 30 Entrepreneur of the Year and stuff are extremely prestigious, and it requires, if you look at, I think there's somewhere between 31 and 32 million businesses in the United States, and to be listed as 30 Under 30 and Entrepreneur of the Year and all these type of things, this puts you in the 0.00001 or something percentage of people. And most people would associate that with an unbalanced life. In other words, usually the higher up the expertise or effectiveness level, I've found that a lot of people become extremely disbalanced. Was that the case on the rising up that led you to this model, or was it the model that allowed you to perform at that level? That's the first question I'm going to start with.
Yeah, and that's a great one. I've actually never been asked that. I think from a young age, I've always kind of intuitively found balance in my life. I always loved being an athlete, but then also being creative and artistic, and then traveling and doing a bunch of different things. I never really put myself in one box. And I always thought, like, why can't you be good at a bunch of different things? And that theme has kind of always followed me. In college, I was a student, obviously. I was in a fraternity. I was also starting a business, and I ran on the varsity track team. So kind of that theme of like juggling a few things all at once has, definitely been a pattern of my past.
So maybe we can back up to kind of like early childhood and maybe moving forward. Like what was your trajectory kind of moving into this, and then obviously the acceleration as an entrepreneur? That was during college or came out afterwards?
Yeah, so my grandfather was an entrepreneur, which we'll get into, and as well as my father. So I always saw my dad being an entrepreneur, going to the office. I always had that entrepreneurial spirit, a notebook as a little kid, coming up with all these crazy ideas, which I still have. And yeah, in college, my freshman year, I was on vacation with my family and friends, thinking about how lucky I was to be there. But that week, my grandfather was diagnosed with Alzheimer's. And growing up, he was a huge part of my life. Um, he taught me to play golf and pool, and he drove me to school every day as a little kid. And so that news really brought me to a low. And organically, I just started thinking, okay, well, I'm going through these highs and lows in my life. Everyone goes through highs and lows. It doesn't matter your age, demographic, income level. What are the highest and lowest points on Earth? And I figured out they were Mount Everest and the Dead Sea. And I was like, okay, well, what if I took elements from the highest and lowest points on Earth and incorporated them in a product that people could just wear every day as a reminder to find balance in life, staying humble when you're on top of the world and hopeful when you've hit a low.
That I think you kind of dispelled one of the perceptual bias of people who aren't entrepreneurs, is that kind of like, oh, you open a business, you're rich and successful and everything's kind of groovy, or you're it's commonplace for people to be very critical and thinking that business people are kind of greedy, self-interested people who, work off the backs of others or ever. But I think the fail rate on businesses is something like 96% after 5 years or something like that. So it's then the numbers and a lot of the projections don't match. But I think one issue that I think a lot of people don't understand, the entrepreneur takes on the responsibility of everyone who works for, plus the contractual relationships with their vendors. And it can be extremely stressful. Even when things are going well, it can be stressful, let alone when things are going bad. What are some lessons that you would share both to entrepreneurs or people working for an entrepreneur that might offer insight of how to, sculpt out this balanced lifestyle so that you still maintain a perspective? Because sometimes when, there's what I call the wolf on Wall Street syndrome, where everything's going great and you think it's just party and live well. And then there's the other thing, where it's Enron and, everybody's going to, it's just like terrible, and everybody's jumping out of buildings and stuff. So where's the balance between those two items, and how do you achieve it?
Yeah, we as a company and myself have to remember to stay balanced every single day. Through Lokai in the years, upcoming summer will be 10 years old. There's been incredible highs and incredible lows in our own business. And I think for any entrepreneur or person out there trying to achieve something, it's about remembering that there will always be another high and another low, right? You can never just stay at one forever. And so just kind of keep going and ride that wave. And I think the more times you go up and down, you realize you'll keep going up and down, and that it's about how you act and treat people on the journey while you're going through those highs and lows, and always staying focused on what your goal is.
So what are some of the things or habits that you've incorporated to kind of make that happen, that you see some maybe other people kind of letting drop off in either those high times or low times?
I always prioritize my team. I think my team is the most important asset that I have. And I want to make sure that I'm giving them enough space to really grow and develop as individuals and make small mistakes and learn from those mistakes themselves. And I also want to put myself in their shoes, right? I think as a CEO, if I want to take a day off to be with my kids or go on vacation or drive upstate on Friday afternoon, like I can do that, but not every employee can. So how are they finding balance and how are they being their best self? And so I'm constantly thinking about my team. So one example of something we recently implemented was we call them Balance Fridays. It's essentially a summer Friday all year round. So
tell me, what's a summer Friday mean?
Oh, so summer Fridays are like 2 p.m. you're off
Got
during
it.
the summer on Fridays. Yeah, it's like, well, I think a good number of companies have summer Fridays, but we're like, wow, people love these so much. They allow them to get chores done, be with their family, travel Friday afternoons, but it's like only in the summer. But like, why should the summer dictate having that or not? And so we made it year round.
What was the response?
Unbelievable. Some people, I think, were like, I'm going to take less days off now because all the things that I was going to take days off to do, I can now achieve in my Friday afternoons. And like, let's be honest, like, I'm not that productive on Friday afternoons. So like, you can't expect someone to be, it's there 6 p.m. at their desk working. Like, so better to take that time and turn off the computer and shut down and recharge than like kind of get a few things done on those last hours on Friday.
Now, I understand that you have kind of two different types of business in a way. That you have a retail side and an e-commerce side. And oftentimes the structure of those businesses are very different, as is the personnel and type of people. How would you differentiate the traditional retail business with the e-com business, both in its nature, as well as the work-life balance that's involved maybe between the two of them? Because they are kind of different beasts and seem to attract different types of people. Would you agree with that? Or would you say that, no, it's a little bit, it's not that different?
For our team, I wouldn't say so. I think when we hire, we really try to find people that fit our culture and care about the same values as us, living a balanced life, giving back, helping others, being very team oriented, and always pushing yourself. So I think there's a lot of similarities between my entire organization, including finance and operations and marketing. I think that having a strong balance of an omni-channel approach, D2C, retail, Amazon, is incredibly important. And we're incredibly lucky that we've had that over the last 4 or 5 years, because I mean, with COVID, things just went lopsided. Like instantaneously, our retail business went to almost zero when COVID hit, and our D2C channel, lucky enough, was growing. Then as COVID we started to come out of COVID, retail started to explode. Some of the changes with iOS 14 updates online made advertising much harder. D2C started to struggle. So kind of having that balance amongst the team. And also, I think being very encouraging to the teams or the group that is struggling was important, because I knew and we knew that, okay, COVID will have an end. Like, we don't want our team to all leave, or we don't want to let our whole sales team go when COVID was going on because they weren't generating any revenue, and not one person left, and the team has just excelled out of COVID. So I think having that long-term vision and caring about your team has been a huge part of our success.
So inside of that, like, how does that like translate into habits? Like, so how do you cultivate a culture where people understand it's a two-way trail? You're taking care of the team's taking care of the business objectives, and there's a culture there. What do you feel are the most important parts of cultivating those principles you allocated earlier about, giving back, contribution, these type of things inside the company culture? How do you, I don't know, how do you cook the stew there, basically?
There's no magic bullet. I'm still trying to figure it out. I'd say I'm a lot better at it now than I was 10 years ago, but I think it's just listening to your team.
So it would seem humility is probably the biggest value. Thus the bracelet. I want to talk, before we get into your product line and adaptogenic stuff. I thought this was really neat. I got your bracelet and I got the little card, and I thought it's for those who haven't seen it, this little card that goes with it, and it kind of explains exactly what you're talking about here. And it's a very interesting piece,
both in the design and its conceptual idea. How does something like that relate to your team or your ideology or your pathway in life? And this kind of, it automatically creates a balanced perspective, just kind of subconsciously. But was that intentional? And then how did people just get that really clearly and translate it?
Yeah, I mean, it came out of my personal experience and my own story. What we found is people really connect their own story to the Lokai that they wear. So I think when people wear a Lokai, they think about their highs and their lows. That's what they talk about when they talk about our brand. And that's really what has allowed us to just explode over the last 10 years because of that word of mouth of our consumers, but they're really sharing their own story, not just the brand story. And I didn't mention this yet, but from the very beginning of starting Lokai, giving back has been a huge part of why I started the company, because of my grandfather and Alzheimer's. And so we donate 10% of profits to charity. And we've donated over $9.4 million to different nonprofit organizations since we started. And what we found is, like, we have Alzheimer's Lokai, breast cancer, Make-A-Wish, mental health. Like, we probably have about 20 or so partners. And those partnerships with those organizations and their communities of people who are going through really hard things in their lives, just to be able to give them a little bit of hope, it has it's a humbling experience. And yeah, we have lifelong customers because of it.
That's really cool. Talk about your brand, Lokai, some of the aspects of the adaptogenic industry. The industry is exploding. There's a lot of regulatory stuff that's still unwinding itself, but it looks like it's going to expand exponentially over probably the next decade. So you're obviously an early adapter to that. How did that get started for you, and what's the company about, and what are you doing out there?
Yeah. So you said Lokai, elements of balance.
Yeah. Sorry, I apologize. Yes.
No, all good. Just so for the listeners. So a couple of years ago, as the brand Lokai, we were saying, okay, we're Lokai. We're a brand about inspiring people to find balance in their life. How else can we do that in an authentic way that really delivers on that promise? Not just find your balance on a t-shirt and sell it. And we learned about adaptogens. And how in high enough doses, they have functional benefits that you can really feel, but only if you really use clinical doses.
Yes.
And
like 3 grams of lion's mane, for example, for memory, right? Would be a good example.
So we set out on this journey to create these formulas. We created an energy, a focus, a calm, and a sleep. And we started with them in just like a tincture bottle format. We quickly learned that, one, they taste disgusting because there was no flavoring. It was just the pure adaptogens. So we knew we had to fix that. And 2, we quickly learned the beverage and supplement industry is a very, very different industry from selling bracelets. And so we separated the companies. So Elements of Balance is its own entity. And go full circle back to the team. We knew we had experience in brand. We understood product, but we had no idea how to do ready to drink distribution and logistics. And so we brought in an executive team of people who have been in the industry for 30 plus years to help us on that side. And yeah, some of the principles that I really care about is the authenticity of a product, right? It doesn't matter how good your sales team is, your marketing, your brand. Like, if the product doesn't work that you're selling, people might try it once, but they're not going to keep coming back. And so all of our products, we have an energy, a focus, a calm, and a sleep. They all are based off of clinical studies that have been done by third-party entities. And we actually not just matched the dose that those clinical studies used, but we actually also use the same supplier that was used in those clinical studies. So it's an exact 1-for-1.
That's really, it's important. I think a lot of people will look at a label and they'll see a company or a couple companies on the store shelf, and they'll say, oh, okay, it's, X product, and it has A, B, C ingredients. Well, they look kind of the same, and they're about the same milligram or microgram or whatever the dosage happens to be. And then it's like, but the effects are very different. And what are some of the things that you look at in order to, I love the clinical side of it. We operate from a similar model, but when you're going through supply chains, I mean, it's a war zone out there, and you got to be able to really not just test for the levels of it, but what may be in it that you don't want.
Totally.
Is it an effective dose and everything? So how do you navigate that difficult environment, and why is that so important to your brand?
The Bioptimizer mission is to help more of the world fix their digestion at a core level. The truth is, your digestion is only as good as your enzyme levels. Imagine trying to build a house with a tree. It's impossible. You need to chop the tree down into small pieces. Similarly, in order for your food to be used by your body, it must be broken down into a bioavailable form. And that's what enzymes do, converting protein into amino acids, fats into specific fatty acids, and carbohydrates into usable energy units. We start out with an abundance of enzymes, and that's why kids can digest just about anything really quickly. The thing is cooking food kills enzymes, as they cannot survive at temperatures above 118 degrees. So years of this ends up depleting our bodies and leads to weak digestion. Taking digestive enzymes like Masszymes, which has an incredibly high level of protease for digesting protein, as well as other critical enzymes like lipase, amylase, and others, is a total game changer. Suddenly, you strengthen your digestion, eliminate gas and bloating, boost metabolism, and multiply your energy. Most importantly, you fix your digestion at a core level. To get started with Masszymes and to save 10% on your first order, go to masszymes.com. That's MASSZYMES.com, and use the code MASS10, MASS10.
Will be the first to say I'm not a scientist and I'm not an expert on the doses of the adaptogens, right? And so we brought the right people in to make sure that throughout the supply chain that was being done properly. What I care about is, okay, we say it's clinical doses, it has clinical doses, but do people actually feel it? Like, or is it just kind of BS? And so we do a lot of like consumer research and like consumer studies to ask them about the feeling, the taste, the like all different aspects of their experience with the product. And we have gotten incredible feedback on the function side. So I think to answer your question, it's a little bit of an art as it is a science. Yeah. At the end of the day, you're selling the function. It doesn't matter if it has clinical doses if no one feels it. Right. So yeah, I'm really looking at the end result to see, do people feel it? And in full transparency, from the beginning, function has actually been the thing that we've nailed. The thing that's been hard for us that we continue to iterate and work on is the flavor, because and one of the things we did was make capsules, right? So people can just no taste with the capsule, you just swallow it. Yeah. But with the ready to drink product, I learned, like you can't just have the function. Yes. It has to taste just as good as a delicious drink that has no health benefits at all as well. And so we continue to even now iterate on our flavors to try to improve them.
Yeah, it's one of the major obstacles in the formulation of products, for sure, especially for whatever reason. It seems the more effective a product is, the worse it tastes. I don't know why that seems to be. Yeah. Especially when you get into the cognitive stuff. A lot of the cognitive enhancers just have god awful flavors and tastes and and the more effective they are, it seems like it. So
I think it's also because there's a lot of it, right? Yes. If you want it to work, exactly, you need a significant amount. And I'm always very hesitant about products you see on the market, even some big water brands now. like claim a function, they list an adaptogen, but then the liquid is clear. And we like the adaptogens are brown. Like if you put a little bit of it in, it's brown.
Yeah, you want to talk about that whole question for people. I think a lot of people are curious about that, and you can maybe kind of expand on your experience. You talk about this about, clinical effectiveness, and then also there's a labeling issue that we have to deal with. If you put a little bit of this in, it says may support blah blah blah, but it doesn't mean it does anything. So what is, you think, the big problem? I don't know how to curate this. I guess how do you separate your brand from what I call the Me Too products that are based on margin, not on mission?
Yeah, so I, as a founder, and I've always kind of been this way, I try not to look at what other people are doing.
Right.
I try to always stay focused on myself, our company, our product, and being the best that we can be. Because I think sometimes if you start to look around and you see, oh, this company's doing this much revenue, oh, this company's this big now, you don't really see the full story of what corners they're cutting on the inside, how they're getting that revenue, what ingredients they're using. So the story is not always black and white. And I think it's about, for me, and the way that I'm building Elements is like, I'm here for the long run. And yes, the word adaptogen is really trendy right now. Ginseng, rhodiola, ashwagandha, and people are putting adaptogen on every package, right? Even if they just sprinkle a tiny bit in. But at first it might work and it might drive some sales, like I said earlier, but they won't keep coming back if they're not getting the real benefits that you're promising. And so there's definitely a lot of products in the market that claim certain things that if you use them and you don't feel it, you'll probably move on from.
Well, what got you into adaptogens in the first place? Like, how did you what was your kind of backstory of getting into the wild world of adaptogens, your own experiences that said, hey, you know what, let's make this, let's go build a company around adaptogens?
Yeah, it was out of Lokai, of another way to help people find balance in their life. And what adaptogens physically do are balance your cortisol levels, which are your stress hormones. And so it is the physical manifestation of helping you find balance, where Lokai is kind of the mindset of finding balance and staying humble, hopeful. And so that was the inspiration. We were looking at all different things when we were thinking about what else we could make. We were thinking of apps, and we were thinking about wearables, and the adaptogen natural story really fit the efficacy of what we wanted a product to be that helped people find balance.
So did you start experimenting on your own and then kind of expand that, or you just said, let's look at this market particularly and go from that angle first?
Yeah, yes. I mean, I had never heard the word before, adaptogen, before it was brought up in one of our meetings. Obviously, I went and experimented and tried a bunch of products, and could really feel a difference. And so the feeling has always been like number one for me. And so that's why we have those 4 different functions.
Excellent. So as an entrepreneur who is looking at kind of a balanced life and running this, what does a day in the life or a week in the life look like for someone with so many, accommodations and levels of success? And how do you think that differs from maybe people that are struggling with that balance in their life?
I think it's consistency. I'm not perfect, but I try to keep to a incredibly rigid schedule. Like I wake up between 5 and 5:20 every day. I work out Then I spend an hour with my kids from 7 to 8, start working at 8 a.m., work till 5 p.m. Work from 5 to 7. I'm with the kids on most days. Like today, we're actually going through that time right now. But on most days, spend that time with my kids, and then we'll get back online after. And I try to do that every single day. And the reason I use the word consistency is because every day is not always a great day. Some are great days, some are bad days, some are okay days. But I think showing up every single day and trying to better yourself in the company and what you're doing over years, that compounds. And so, yeah, I try to stay very consistent with that.
What kind of working out do you do?
Cycle, I run, and do some lifting.
Awesome. Is that 6 days a week, 5 days a week?
5 to 6.
Excellent. And then weekends, how does the weekends look? Is every day a work day?
So Saturday has been renamed Dadder Day in our household. I have 2 boys, a 3.5 and a 2-year-old.
Oh, wow. That's so cool.
Yeah. And so I'm with them most of the day on Saturday. And then Sunday, I try to work.
Mm-hmm. Life of an entrepreneur. Let's talk about your connection. I think you're giving back, Make-A-Wish Foundation and these type of charities. What's the process? Charities come in all sizes, shapes, missions, and levels of effectiveness. How do you determine or qualify a good charity to work with, and how do you create that relationship with your business on the kind of give back model?
That is a great question, and it's one that we have internally a lot. We don't necessarily choose the charity partners that we work with based on size, because we don't want to exclude some of the smaller ones, which we have as partnerships. That being said, because we are now such a large brand and we are donating significant amounts of money to these organizations, we want to make sure that there's enough scrutiny on them and that they are big enough where we're not a majority of their revenue coming in, right? And that we know that the dollars from our customers are efficiently being used with whatever organization that we give to. One really cool thing that we are going to roll out in January, we have a membership program where it's our super fans that love Lokai, and they get a new exclusive design every single month. They're going to be able to pick whatever cause they want to give to, right? So that's kind of a differentiator for us where, yeah, we have these 20 or so partnerships that if you want to buy the pink one for breast cancer, it goes to BCRF. But with our new membership model, like we'll have a list of hundreds of potential nonprofits that if you know a certain one and you want to give to it, you can choose.
That's really cool. And it's a great thing to kind of be part of that. What would you say some of the highlights have been of being a corporate partner for some of these give back foundations? What has that done for both you and your team?
Yeah, I'll let everyone in on a little secret. The more you give back, the more you actually receive. And I know that sounds crazy, and what you receive is not monetary, but it is relationships, experiences. It's a new perspective on life. I think whether it's going to breast cancer walks, or I would say the highlight that always comes to mind before I was on the national board of the Make-A-Wish Foundation, Lokai granted, I call him my friend now because he is my friend, Noah, a wish, and his wish was to meet Cam Newton. And understanding and watching that experience that Noah had and his family had that weekend was life-changing for them. And it was life-changing for me. Like, I thought about all of the problems and things that I complained about, and then what he was going through in his life. And it just puts a whole new perspective on what you think a tough day is.
And I think this is a really good point. I know early in my life, I went through my sister's illness, and going as a young child, there was some members of our community that had contributed to her health and her vitality, and kind of made some really nice experiences. And it was two levels to it. So being in a disadvantaged family at the time was one thing. That's where I came from. But seeing how the community, a group of concerned people in the community, came in and just did some nice things for her, and the profound effect it had on her, but also on my own life. I'll never forget that. I also got some other family members that had been impacted by charity at a time in their life, long time ago. And for decades after, they continued to support that. But that perspective, and I want to dive in a little bit more of it. How important is that perspective in leading a balanced life?
Yeah, it's everything. And I think you don't have to separate building a successful company and making a lot of money with giving back. I believe you can do them at the same time. And to me, it's even more fulfilling to be able to accomplish them together.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think perspective makes things meaningful, and it also makes the not so meaningful not so bad. It's like, it's every day is a good day, and our bad days are not nearly as bad as someone else's. And of course, if you understand that, I think it creates vision. How is that translated though, through not just from you, but inside the company culture? Because you talked about company culture. How does your team members feel about that, and what's their experience around that?
Yeah, I think, it starts from the people that we hire, right? I think a lot of people are attracted to Lokai and want to work for Lokai because of that giving back. And so we have incredible retention in the company. And I think it's retention, but it's also passion. People that work at Lokai and Elements, but I know we're speaking specifically about cause and giving back. Like, some of them have been affected by a cause, and they understand the work that they're doing and putting in is having a positive impact on the world.
Yeah, it's powerful to have the company vision translate into an experiential reality, so people kind of get, it's not just a mission statement. There's an experience of a mission, and that is very binding. I think I always love Viktor Frankl's work on man's search for meaning. And even in the worst conditions, if you can find meaning within it, you're okay. And if you, in the best conditions, if they don't have any meaning, there's an aspect of the human spirit that just kind of dies and is suffering. But I want to switch and do a little bit a talk. We kind of led in there, but I didn't expand on a minute before we wind up. I wanted to talk about the elements of balance, the plant-based springs. Can you break down each one of the product offerings, maybe how it works, what's in it, who's it for, when would people use it, that type of thing?
Yeah, of course. So we have two different kind of categories of products. We have ready to drink cans, which are flavored. And then we have supplements that are capsules that you swallow. One capsule or one dose, because two of the supplements have two, you take two instead of one. They're the exact 1-for-1 as drinking one can. So it's very balanced. In our energy, we have rhodiola, ginseng, and green tea caffeine. In focus, we have schisandra, lion's mane, and citicoline. In calm, we have holy basil and wild green oat. And then in sleep, we have ashwagandha, passion flower, and L-theanine. and they're super clean. Besides those, there's nothing else in them on the supplement side. So like those are the only ingredients in the products, in the clinical doses. And then in the ready to drink, there's they're all natural, but there's flavoring as well.
What kind of flavors do they come in?
So energy is orange ginger, focus is blueberry lemon, calm is apple vanilla, and sleep is cherry vanilla.
Awesome. And where can people find and get these things?
So elements you can find on our website, elementsofbalance.io, or on Amazon. You just search Elements of Balance drinks or supplements. And Lokai is lokai.com, LOKAI.com.
So what do you see yourself doing over the next 10, 15, 30 years? What kind of impact do you want to have on the world? You're obviously on a super fast rocket ride here. How do you see that translating over the next coming decades?
Yeah, I mean, I think I've found the limit of my plate between fitness, the two companies, and the family. Right now, nothing new I think is going to pop up. Mm-hmm. I love what I'm doing and love my teams and want to continue to grow these two. And the mindset I have is I'll do these two companies for the next 30, 40 years, if that's what it takes to make them really successful. So I didn't start either one to start it to sell it. I think that's also a really dangerous mindset to have as an entrepreneur, because if you're just starting something to finish it, like how do you enjoy the journey? And you probably won't get to the end. Right. That's the mindset you have.
Yeah. You'll make your outcome, your directional outcome leads your decisional choices in the present, what that future outcome is. So
yeah.
That's I think that's an important distinction. And I think it also what drives entrepreneurs through low periods, particularly if it's a low part in the company, then you can just kind of work through it because you're like, okay, well, we're just going to get through this period and on to the next thing, because it's a part of the identity as much as it is part of having success in the business and these type of things that you're out to achieve the mission, and the mission usually is ongoing. Mm-hmm. It's not something that ever really is fully achieved,
Yeah.
So
I know in Jim Collins' book, I forget which one it is. Sorry. You just have to read them all. He talks about like with the company and going through highs and lows, like if you don't hit zero, like the game doesn't end, you keep playing.
Yes.
And until you can win. So yeah, I think I always have that perspective. It might be a low, but as long as we protect the downside from going out of business, we'll always be fine.
It's a very important aspect, I think, in the entrepreneurial journey. Sometimes people get hung up on numbers or hung up on, how many, whatever that you're using as your measurables. But at the end of the day, it's like, are you doing what it is that you're supposed to do in life? Are you following your mission statement, going back to that meaning? And if you have that meaning, you can get through the hard times. And also the good times, I think, are properly balanced in the fact that, oh, well, now I can do more of this or more of that. I can give back more. I can hire more. I can contribute more. I can expand the vision to more people. And I think that makes the entrepreneurial journey worthwhile. Any closing words or things that you'd like to share with entrepreneurs, advice that you would give about living a balanced life? How do they, or a ritual, something they can do to kind of connect themselves into that, having that balance? Because you've kind of blown out the idea that you need to be disbalanced in order to have incredible success. But what are the lures that takes people out of that balance?
Yeah, I always think about like the last day for me on earth. And when I look back at my life, what am I going to be proud of and what am I going to regret? And am I spending my time doing the things that I'm going to be proud of versus not? And so I kind of look at all the things I do, whether it's TV, social media, wasting time. Like, how do I cut those things out and really spend it on the buckets that are important to the future me for the rest of my life?
It's a great perspective and well thought out. Where can people find you, find out more about you, follow you, all the social media, whatever that happens to be? Let us know, because I know there's going to be some people very interested in kind of the unique way that you've built your company, how you're going at it, and also how you're bringing that balance into your life.
Yeah, sure. I'm on Instagram at Steven Izen. It's probably the best place to find me.
Excellent. And for those, you want to talk a little bit about where people can get those bracelets? I think it's a really cool bracelet. I love mine. I think it's just such a great perspective.
Yeah, it's lokai.com, LOKAI.com, or you can go on Amazon. We're also in Dick's Sporting Goods, Kohl's, Ron John Surf Shop, lots of boutiques.
Well, Steven, this was insightful, and I wish you and your company loads of success. Of course, we know it's going to come with the balance associated with, but more importantly, I think you're giving a model and providing a model for conscientious entrepreneurship in a way to steward the success in a way that doesn't just help the company, but helps other people who may not have the same level of fortune. So thank you for taking the time today to join us on the Awesome Health Podcast.
Thank you, Wade. It's been a pleasure.
All right. And for all our listeners out there, if you like this, go check out Lokai. I think it's a great company doing a cool thing. And I love this little bracelet. It gives me perspective. And of course, check out the products. Elements of Balance, adaptogenic herbs are something that I've been using for many, many years. And I encourage, and of course, if you've tried adaptogenic herbs and not got the benefit, try something that has a clinical dosage and you might feel the difference and understand why we're so excited about it. Thanks so much for joining us today. I'm YT Lightheart from Bioptimizers with another edition of the Awesome Health Podcast. Take care.
And now for a Bioptimizers fixed digestion tip: how to get away with eating sugar. Hey, look, sugar is normally one of the worst things for you. But let's be honest. I mean, we all cheat from time to time. And here's a little trick that will ensure your body benefits from the sugar. Now, before you eat or drink anything sweet, take 5 to 8 capsules of P3OM. The patented strain in the formula devours sugar so fast it literally doubles in the body every 20 minutes in the presence of sugar. That doesn't mean that you can or you should eat a bunch of sugar or sit around all day doing that. But on the days that you do cheat, or you go after one of those maybe meals that you wouldn't normally do, this ensures that you get something in your gut that eats the sugar. And it's not going to feed the bad guys or spike your blood glucose nearly as much. So to learn more about P3OM and its sugar-devouring and protein-digesting properties and how it can transform your gut and metabolism, go to www.bioptimizers.com.
Thank you for listening to the Bioptimizers Awesome Health Podcast. You can find more information at bioptimizers.com.